Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 Rocket Mortgage Classic. This is my preview show. I'll go over everything you need to know about the Rocket Mortgage Classic, the course. We'll talk about the players. I've got a ton of custom models. I got some actually really cool stuff that I'm kind of psyched about to cover with you guys. Of course, I'm local to the area and will actually be boots on the ground. Looks like Friday I'll be at the tournament. So I don't know what that's going to help, but I'll be there. And well, with that said, thank you for stopping by, checking me out. Let's go talk some golf. Okay, so real quick, let's recap the 3M Open, which kind of funny enough, I was just looking through my picks and noticed, which is, I don't know if it's ever happened, that my top 5 picks all missed the cut. And then the rest of my guys all made the cut except in the cheapies, Vaughn Taylor. So that's what, 14 out of 20 picks. But it felt worse than that. Like, it felt pretty bad. Of course, funny enough, I talked to you guys about Hideki Matsuyama, the 3 guys at 10,000, which was Finau and Matsuyama. And I kind of told you guys I wasn't going to play any, which, did not help from a DFS perspective, of course, with Finau winning. But, it kind of made me laugh when Hideki withdrew. And if you got to, of course, watching of it, you probably heard the first day that I guess he was on the range for quite a while, testing out a bunch of different drivers and shafts, and, nothing was going right. And he went out there and he was spraying it all over. And, I think he shot what, I don't know, a 77 or something like that. And then I actually tweeted out, watch out for a WD coming. Sure as the world, he WDs. They said it was a wrist injury, whatever. I think it was just, again, he was just so frustrated. It was ridiculous. So that was Hideki. And then, of course, one of my, I guess he was like on deck, I think, for Griot. Of course, had a chance to win. I think he had, a triple bogey on number 7 on the final day, which kind of threw him into pretty much out of it, but made a big comeback on the back 9. Of course, if he knew that Piercy was going to implode, that probably stung him a little more. But Emiliano Griot, has been showing life for the last, last month. And like I said, a great ball striker and has been gaining with the putter, I believe, now 4 straight. We'll have to take a look at that. I at least have the stats for this tournament, but pretty sure going in, he gained with the putter for 3, which is huge for him. Like I said, because typically a very good ball striker was just a brutal putter. And then what else we got? Of course, as I already mentioned, Tony Finau, and then you got your buddy Scott Piercy over here. And let's talk about Scott Piercy first, and then we'll go to Finau. I've got some data because I want to, actually, let's do it the reverse. Sorry. Let's talk about Tony Finau first, then we'll go into Scott Piercy because I got some stuff I want to bring up about him. Awesome for Tony Finau, of course, 3rd win on tour. I give him a ton of credit. As I mentioned, I was kind of thinking because they just came from the Open and all the travel. I just didn't see it. I didn't know how much they would be into this tournament. And Tony Finau, I'm pretty sure I had to look at how much, but definitely gained with the putter. And again, just like Emiliano Griot, if Tony Finau in that kind of field gains with the putter, he's going to be right there with a good chance to win. Now, what's awesome is that I did not bet Tony to start with. I think he was 14-1 out of the gate. But what I kept doing over the Saturday, Sunday timeframe was just kept checking on the live betting. And anytime I saw a decent number on Tony, I live betted and just kept, building that way. So I actually ended up very well on the betting side because I really was waiting for Scott Piercy to fall apart. Everybody can have a good round, and it didn't shock me that he had a good opening round, but I was definitely not expecting that he was going to keep that going and had the lead all the way going into the back 9 on Sunday. I was expecting him to blow up pretty much after either 18 holes, 36 holes. If you know a lot about Scott Piercy, he does have a couple wins on tour, but they've been a long time ago. I think 7 years ago. He has a joint win with Billy Horschel at the Zurich. I don't know if it was the first year the Zurich was actually a team event. I don't remember now because I also remember Jonas Blix and Cameron Smith winning very early on. But neither here or there. For me, I'm just not a huge fan of Scott Piercy. I don't even honestly know what rubbed me the wrong way a while ago about this guy. I think maybe because he's burnt me certain times. Who knows? But for me, it was pretty much out of left field, and we'll look a little bit at his background information if you don't know much about him. But yeah, awesome. Like I said, for me, it was a great Sunday. I was kind of thinking I wasn't going to watch much of it because I had a good day in Showdown on Friday, so I already got my money back from that. But then once, I was doing the live betting stuff and started to see after I think it was the eighth hole of Scott Piercy when he bogeyed, and then you could just start seeing the wheels fall off. Of course, also if you watched the day before, he had the foot issue where I think he had a big blister on the back of his foot, so he kept taking off his shoe. So I was wondering how that might start to hamper him. He mentioned that he had a very, of course, the rain delay on Saturday, so that kind of tired him out, he said. Oh, and then, of course, he put a new putter in the bag and had a new putting stance, which I'm sure you heard about 1,000 times. And hey, sometimes that happens, man, when it just starts going in with that thing and you have just crazy confidence and it was working. But then I guess you could say some of the mental pressures of winning a tournament in the first time, at least an individual tournament in the last 7 years, got to him. And like I said, I don't wish ill will on him not to win. Don't put it that way. Just from a betting, I didn't have Scott Piercy in one lineup. Even in Showdown, I did not play him. I was again expecting that this blow up would have happened, but even sooner. If you did bet him outright, I apologize because I would guess was at least 100-1 going in. Had to be good odds, but of course I had nothing on him at all. And so like I said, I had a little tiny bit of DFS with Finau, aiming from, well, of course, from a Showdown side, and then lastly just the live betting. Okay. Let's look at a little stroke gain data on Mr. Piercy here. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the past year of what he's been doing. And, I go through this stuff. Whenever anybody kind of comes out of left field for me that I did not see or was not on my radar and had a really good chance to win, was leading 4 or 5 strokes going into Sunday. The John Deere miscut, which, there's some ties there with the Big Greens, the Travelers. RBC, not a bad, not too bad, a 21. Then a miscut. And then some 30s, and like I said, his best showing was a 12th at RBC, but then again, some miscuts, and then a 61st at the Genesis. So very hit or miss. Again, if you sit and analyze it, you could see been doing well off the tee, pretty not so great with the irons. Typically he was in his heyday, I'm talking 2013, 2012, was a pretty good ball striker. You could see here, not a whole lot to write home about last time. And I also looked, the most strokes he's ever gained with the putter was back like in 2012. I think he gained like 11. And then this event was his second. So out of his whole career, which is a long career, at least over 10 years, the best he's ever done putting, or second best ever, was this recent tournament. So if that happens, anybody gains 10 strokes with a putter almost, you are going to do some damage. So let's look at that real quick. So first thing, what you see at the top here, and I'm sorry this is a little confusing, but the top 3 things, this is his past history at the 3M Open. So again, nothing that would really get you too excited. You could hang a hat on that. Well, 3-4 years ago, he had a 15th here and, gained almost a stroke with a putter, but did good with the ball striking. But then he had a miscut. And as far as I'm concerned, a 71st, I'm throwing it as a miscut. He did nothing well, maybe chipped in a ball here or there. And then this was just my note I pulled up. These were, and let me think about this. Yeah. All 5 of these guys, which I think were my top 5, except Hideki. So one of these guys were in the second, maybe it's Svensson. It doesn't matter, were the crazy chalk bombs. And so if you had 6 of 6 going in on your fantasy teams into Sunday, you were getting paid. I think I put in, you guys have noticed, I've told you, what I call the lottery, the large GPP. So for the 250K or the million, typically I'll put 10 to 15 teams. I make my money other places. I'm more of a grinder. I'm not looking for the lottery ticket per se. Like I said, everybody wants to throw a couple in, but I'm not the guy that does the mass entry stuff at that because I think it's a big waste of money. But with that said, these 5 guys were somewhere averaging 20 to 30% ownership. And, everybody had these guys at some smattering. So, yeah, it just blew up. And maybe Steele and Tringale were the lower, but Thigala, Riley, and Svensson were heavily owned. And you can see what they just did nothing. They didn't putt was probably the biggest thing. Terrible with the irons. Tringale would have probably been the best, and he lost over 5 strokes with the putter on very, I think, pretty simple greens. There's some, turn here or there, but nothing super undulated. And then the last thing I'll just show you real quick. So for your own information, if you're interested, this is stroke gain data for the guys at, top 15, top 10. And you can see, of course, Finau, as expected, really didn't do a ton with the putter, but, nuts with the irons, which I said, typically that makes sense. If you're putting in 5-footers all day, you're not going to gain a ton with the putter, with the approach. And then here's Scott Piercy, where this number was at 10, gaining 10 strokes on the field with the putter. You can see his irons started to come down a little bit. And I mean, like I said, to play solid golf, but I was just in all. It was not too far off for me personally, the Phil Mickelson at the PGA Championship. All right, that's enough. I think talking about the 3M Open wasn't as profitable as last year when I hit champ, but again, with Finau making that comeback, I still made some money, so that was nice. Okay, total change. We are heading over to Detroit, Michigan, Rock City, and this is being played at the Detroit Golf Club, the North Course. They actually have 36 holes there. I've actually played this course. It was like 20 years ago. There's also Detroit Country Club, so don't get those two mixed up if you're, for whatever reason, trying to look at some data. This course is super old, been around since like the 1900s. This will be the fourth year hosting the Rocket Mortgage. It is a Donald Ross course. In Michigan, we have a lot of Donald Ross courses. This is, I mean, of course, the standard courses that we play that you'll be seeing here. And then there was a reno done by Robert Trent Jones a while back. It is a par 72. It is 7,370 yards. Your fairways are bent with that kind of POA overseed, and the rough is stating that it's going to be 4 inches. So there could be an issue there. And it's a bluegrass. And then, of course, the greens, again, are predominantly bent. Again, I think with some POA overseeding. We got a full player field. It's what we've been typically dealing with, except for at the Open, I think was a little different. But so it's a typical cut to T65 and ties, depending on how that all works out. Your historical cut line has been 400 the last couple, but I think last year was 200. So I don't know, if you average it out, you're going to be about 300 to 400 to make the cut here. And then, of course, your winners I've talked about before. Nate Lashley, of course, one of the great stories on the PGA Tour where I always forget this, he was either last alternate in or Monday qualified. I think he was last alternate in. Corey Connors, I think, was the Monday qualifier. It doesn't matter. And then you also had Doc Redman, who was a newbie, and I don't know what he was under. I don't know if he was under a sponsor exemption. But long story short, if I remember correctly, Nate Lashley was not even available to use in DFS. I believe Doc Redman was. So that's how far this goes back in my memory. So it's always crazy. You couldn't even actually roster him in fantasy or Draftkings, and he actually wins the tournament. 125 under. Like I said, I was there for 2 days of that event, and he hit some of the greatest iron shots I've ever seen, which has always kept my eye on him. Once in a while, he can get alive with a putter, and it kind of hits a low, stinging kind of drive. Of course, then the next year, you had Mr. Big Bad Bryson, and beat Matthew Wolff. This was like the era of Matthew Wolff keep losing to Bryson, like, of course, at the U.S. Open at Winged Foot. I think he shot 20 under, Matthew Wolff, and then Bryson shot 23 under. So then you start thinking, well, it's a bomber's course. And then, of course, Cam Davis kind of backed that up, right? I mean, Cam Davis strokes at about 320 average off the tee. And he went to a playoff with Troy Merritt and Joaquin Niemann, which is funny enough, I totally forgot Joaquin Niemann was involved in that because I think he lost in the first hole, and then the next hole, Davis beat Merritt. And of course, if you saw that, Cameron Davis, I think it was either on 17 or 18. I think it was 17, actually chipped in for eagle to get him into this, and then wins it. So it was pretty crazy. Then you got the average green size, about, some people would say smaller than average. I think that's average. I always say 5,000 square foot is an average size green. You got a bit of sand, 87 sandbunkers out here. You literally have one water hazard next to number 14, and it's the only hole that the water comes really into play. And I put the stent meter on there. I didn't get this from the superintendent sheet, but they typically run around 12 and a half. Course defense, I mean, it doesn't really have a lot. This is it's an older traditional course, pretty generous fairways. I think there's 30 acres of fairways, so pretty large fairways. There are trees. It's not like on most of the area, you can drive it. If you get into trees, you're going to get out. It's just, trees kind of spread out here or there. And like I said, this course is pretty much defenseless unless we get some kind of weather. It has been pretty hot, as it has been in most of the whole, everywhere. But, we'll see. I have no idea. I've not been down there yet. So I'm currently up North Michigan, but we'll be heading down there on Wednesday. And if I see something that I think is important, I'll let you guys know. And if the past knows something big, it's one of the flattest courses on tour. So maybe not too far off from the Genesis. According to ShotLink, and the front 9, as I mentioned, is tree line, but the back 9 is pretty open. And like I said, there's just trees kind of scattered, and I'll show you pictures of that. I think that's about it. There's really nothing else too great I can really cover on that. So here's the Rocket Mortgage. I mean, if you played golf, especially in the Midwest, it is kind of the back and forth course. There's number 14 that I mentioned, the water in front, and that is really all there you need to see. And there's the trees I was trying to explain to you, just kind of spread out. And that's it. I mean, there's nothing real super unique about this course. If we want to look at it just so you can get an understand, I mean, there is some long par threes. There's a big long par five. They have actually added some yards comparative to 2019, but nothing crazy. I'd say about 100 yards. I don't even know what's that. Maybe like 50 yards total through a few different holes. But this is the updated yardage. I'm just trying to see. I always look to see if there's anything from birdie streak. I mean, it's a pretty gentle handshake except for number 2. And you got the typical yep, 6 birdie opportunities and 6 bogey opportunities. And a couple par 3s are longer. We'll talk about that, a bit of defense, but there's some drivable par 4s. So let's see here. Where is it at? It's also depending where they put the tees and what the wind's doing. So there's a 372. I thought there was, maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was one like 350, but maybe they changed that. Maybe they added some yardage. But yeah, some short par 4s, and we'll talk about the proximity of the pins. They're pretty short that you need to be good at. And then, as always, I pulled the card from the PGA Tour. Everything is spot on, and you can see the par and the yardage. Everything, nothing's changed. I always just verify this, make sure there's nothing quirky out there that's changed. All right, so as always, I'm going to show you guys my stroke gain analysis ranking. This is the things that I think you need to be very good at from a skill set to actually win this tournament. Number 1 that shows up, and we'll go over this, is approach. The next is putting, and that's a tough one, right? I mean, it's hard to predict who's going to be really good at putting, but all we can do is look at historical, recent history of what guys have been doing with the putter on bent greens. Just need driving distance here, and that shows up. I mean, Cam Davis, Bryson, Wolf, Nate Lashley. I mean, he's not long, but he hits it, I think, like 280, 290. Yeah, if you start to look, I mean, because you can't really get in a whole lot of trouble, and you're going to be hitting to the distance that you like best. So if you want it within 100 yards every time, you're going to just be banging the driver and not have a whole lot to worry about. Short game, funny enough, so ball striking is not really shown up here over the past few years, but short game does. Again, this is at 30 yards, 50 yards, around the green. And then, of course, around the green is a different stat. It's, right next to the green, you're chipping and stuff like that. I put scrambling in just because of the trees, and I could see if you do have a guy out there that's just letting it loose, like, Wolf and DeChambeau did when they were here, you're probably going to get behind a tree here or there. So there's going to be a little scrambling involved. The proximities to the pins that show up the highest over the past few years, the 125 to 150 is number 1. It's almost 20%. And then the next prox to the pin is 100 to 125, which is at 15%. And again, if you're kind of newer to this, what does proximity to the pin mean? When you're hitting your shot into the green from a certain distance, who's the best at that and getting it closest to the pin? That's pretty much it. I mentioned there's a couple long par 3s. There's one over 225, and then there's one somewhere in between that. And so I put that in just to see who's good at longer par 3s. It's a little bit of a defense. The par 5s are very gettable, except for I said there's that long 630-yard one. But these guys still, if you're hitting at 330, you can still, smoke a 3-wood, get it close. And then, of course, this is a scoring fest. It's birdies, eagles, and we need opportunities. And we're going to talk about that a little bit from more of a comparable course side about guys that are going to have to go low to win this thing. All right, so let's look at some past winners and some information. I'll whip through this pretty quick. I already mentioned Cam Davis, but funny enough, if you kind of look at off the tee, it's not overrun. Now, there's different ways to always win, but I'm just showing you like what we'll notice is the top guys. You can look at all of them, but the top guys, at least the top 2, and then here, approach is key, and then the putter. The putter is like the big thing on every year that shows up that you're not seeing the Jordan Spieth win the RBC losing, whatever, a stroke and a half to the field or whatever. I mean, it's all solid, and it's solid gaining 3, 5, 7, 4, 6, so you get the idea. I mean, Bubba Watson would be the first one that still gained, but barely gained. And then if we look at the year, DeChambeau and Wolf, and again, you can see names like Kisner, good putter. Armour, so Hadwin, good putter, Hatton, good putter. So like I said, there is different ways to get it done here, but these two stuck up at the top. And again, this was a little different. This is probably a unique one where again Bryson gained almost 7 strokes off the tee, but lost on approach, but then gained 8 strokes with the putter. You can see Wolf kind of was more of a balance, but did gain 6 with the. So again, putting shows up huge, and the irons overall are the key things. But you can see guys up here, losing strokes, 1.8, 1.2, 0. Nothing crazy off the tee. So again, when you take off the tee, it's distance combined with hitting fairways. And I think the hitting the fairway is not as big, but now, it depends. We get some rain, and if that rough is at 4 inches, that might cause a little bit of an issue. But then again, DeChambeau and Wolf, which we learned are a couple of the best because they have such a steep impact into the ball with their irons, and also they hit the ball so far that instead of hitting a 5-iron, they're hitting an 8-iron. Like, it was that much significant. So there could be a little bit of that was going on this year too, like what we saw at Wingfoot. All right, and then I don't know if I got this in reverse, but I think this would be the first year. Nate Lashley, again, really not a whole lot off the tee was gained, but the irons gained 6, 4. I'm just rounding 3, 5, 4, 6. Again, a lot of irons. And then again, Nate Lashley went nuts with the putter, gained over 9.3. Doc had 5, which that's crazy because Doc Redman is a horrible putter, but did very well here. 5. Again, you can see, Brian Stewart did it, was terrible everywhere, but, gained almost 11 strokes with the putter. So long story short, the things that I'm going to be focused in on, and then I also can prove this out a little bit, will be the irons and the putter. Okay, with all that said, I have created a custom model that I will cover, and we are looking at 24 rounds, or the last 6 tournaments, however you want to look at it. And of course, I've got approach heavily weighted at 20%. We got the putting at 15, driving distance at 15, not worried about the fairways. Got scrambling at 5. I got short game at 10, around the green at 5. I got procs to the pin, 125 to 150. That showed up 20% of the time, weighted at 10% of the model. And then there's a scoring aspect that we have to watch. Of course, we need birdies, eagles, and birdie or better opportunities. That's going to take up a total of 20% of this ranking. And there's no filters turned on, so I don't have bent greens or nothing at this point. This is just looking at the past 6 tournaments these guys played. And number 1 comes up Max Homa, Tony Finau, Cam Davis, Kitayama, Cantlay, Scott Stallings, Chesson Hadley, David Skins, Keegan, Riley got her up, Cam Young, Scott, Mark Hubbard, who I believe has withdrawn from this tournament, and some you'll know. So that is the guys that come up with just recent form turned on. Now, the next thing that I want to look at, and if I look at it, I want you guys to see it too, is, okay, well, what if we turn the filter on for bent greens? What happens? Because again, putting is going to be a huge key here, and hopefully we're looking for guys that putt very well on bent greens. Of course, Patrick Cantlay comes up number 1. Think of Memorial, how many times he's done well there. You think about his wins on the FedEx for on bent greens when he went nuts and kind of broke the putting stat records, gaining over 14 strokes with the putter. You got Tony Finau, which is kind of crazy that he comes up putting, but right now he has been gaining with the putter. You got Max, you got Scott Stallings, which I did not mention. I will go over my betting card, and he's one of the guys that I'm very excited about this week. You got some you'll know, Cam Davis, Laboda, James Hahn, who had a great Sunday, shot 600 at the 3M Open. You got David Skin, CT Pan, Colin Tarrant, Mr. Patrick Rogers, Keegan, Mark Hubbard again, and then Svensson. All right, so the next thing after recent form, we got to figure out, well, horses for courses. Who's done well at the Detroit Golf Club? Same thing. You're going to notice that we're not going to see as many rounds because we haven't been able to play that many times here. And same model and no filters. And number 1 comes up Doc Redman, which makes sense. He's played here quite a few times, had that second place finish. And then I believe, we'll look at it, but had like a top 20 the next time. Kisner, who actually gains, played this place 3 times and gains in total strokes, period. So you can get it done other ways. You got Matt McNeely, Matt Hughes, Cameron Tringali, Matt Wallace, Lashley, a past winner, Cameron Davis, a past winner, Ryan Stewart, Laboda, Straka, Brandon Hagee. Also kind of an interesting bet, maybe a top 10, just because of his length and can get hot with the putter. You got Ricky Fowler, who, of course, is an ambassador of Rocket Mortgage and is here every year. And then you got Wyndham Clark and JJ Spawn, your Valero Texas winner this year. All right, so I talked a little bit about Kevin Kisner. I wanted to show you, so from a one-and-done perspective, if you're looking for an interesting play, here's the guys over the past 3 years at this place gained the most strokes total. And I mentioned Kevin Kisner with a T8, a third, a T46. Tringali's done very well here, a 14th, a 5th, a 30th. You got Nate Lashley, of course, who won and then couldn't make a cut here. You got Troy Merritt, who's had 2 good showings recently, a 2nd and an 8th. And I was trying to look at Brandon Hagee. I like that. A T6 and a T39 makes sense to me. Trying to see if anybody else that sticks out. Ricky Fowler, like I said, has played a ton here. So again, just to give you a little more, and it also kind of helps me to make sure that my model's on point. And then I always do this once in a while. So typically when I get into my picks, you guys will see something close to this. I call it the keep it simple, stupid model. What's the main kind of three things that I'm looking at? If I could only pick 3 stroke game categories, what are the most important? I think approach, putting, and driving distance. And so I just remove all the rest of the nonsense and look at the last 24 rounds, no filters, who comes up then. And this kind of validates, again, what I'm thinking. Homa, Finau, Rogers, Cam Davis, Bradley, Goddard, Adam Scott, Taryn, Stallings, Kitayama, Hadley, Riley, Samuel No, Lee Hodges, and David Skins. Kind of funny, David Skins just keeps popping up over and over. And I haven't looked in to see where that 24 rounds is coming from. We've seen him a little bit. Had a good showing, I believe. I remember, I think it was TPC, the Byron Nelson at Craig Ranch. I have to validate that, but this is off memory. All right, and then, of course, because irons are very key always, I give you guys my Iron Man slide, who's the best iron player right now. Again, looking at recent form, past 6 tournaments, 24 rounds, no filters. And we're going to look over here on approach. So it's filtering by best iron player, period. Taking all these proximities into as a whole. And number 1, Scott Stallings, who, again, I mentioned I'm very excited about and I've already bet. Mark Hubbard, as I told you, I'm pretty sure he WD'd. Davis Riley, Brennan Steele, who, of course, also upset us at the 3M Open, but could be a very good bet. Lee Hodges, Russ Henley, Homa, Zalatoris, Goddard, List, Finau, Cam Davis, Mr. Schenk, Stefan Jaeger, and Michael Kim, who come up best iron player over their past 6 tournaments they played. And then the next thing that I wanted to look at is that high proximity. It comes in 20% of the time. So who's really good from that 125 to 150, again, over the past 6 tournaments? You got Ryan Palmer, who's just been struggling. I mean, I think he made the cut at the 3M Open, but didn't do a whole lot after that. You got Max McGreevy and my buddy Russ Henley, who, of course, we'll talk about from a betting perspective. Again, Mark Hubbard is all over here, but WD'd. Lucas Glover, good iron player. Ricky Fowler, Harry Higgs, past winner Cam Davis, Garrick Higo, Matty Wallace, Sink, Stallings, Cole, Skins, and Brian. And Stuart Sink, funny enough, I was going to talk about this in the recap, was one of my picks. I thought he would do very well there. I think he barely made the cut. Then I think he had a really good Saturday, not the greatest Sunday. But he was leading after 36 holes proximity to the pin. So if you look at analysis while you're doing showdown, I keep an eye on, what everybody's doing off the tee, irons, and then what they're doing with the putter. He was gaining like 4 strokes off the tee, 4 strokes to the irons, and losing 5 strokes to the putter. And he finally, like I said, it got a little better on, I believe it was Saturday. I still watched him miss a 3-footer to open up on Saturday for a birdie. So if he could have putt, I told you guys I thought it was a good bet. I thought it was a good DFS play. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a terrible DFS play. If he could have just broke neutral with the putter, he would have been easily top 5 in that tournament. Anyways, just a little side note. All right, so typically I do a comp course thing for you guys, and I'm going to do that, but I'm letting you know it's a little different. When I usually look at comparable courses, we're looking at unique features, right? Like, so even a 3M Open, which is very comparable to PGA National, where they played the Honda Classic, tons of water, you try to look at length, you try to look at par, how the course plays and all that. With this, it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, as I mentioned, there's nothing unique about the Detroit Golf Club. But what is, I think, a little unique is that it's just a very high scoring tournament. And so what I'm looking at is not so much, hey, this course is exactly like that course. It's more about who can go low. And so these are the top courses since 2000. I had the most birdies. And this, I literally just pulled up from the John Deere. So it's very recent information. And so this is what I'm going to plug in. And I just want to see who can go low. So these are the courses. I actually took out TPC Sawgrass because I don't feel like that's just a huge score fest. And I threw in TPC Craig Ranch because that is a huge score fest. So that's the only change to this. And so who comes up number 1? You got Patrick Cantlay, you got Woodland, Stallings, Scott, Goddard, Simpson, Hadley, Taryn, Henley, Tringali, Thigala, another one that killed us last weekend, Kuchar, Hubbard, Davis, Will Z, against my model, against those courses. But really what I want to know is who scores the best on those courses. So this is, I've showed you guys this before, this is what I use as my showdown model. When I'm just literally looking at guys just to go low. I don't, bogey avoidance, yeah, is great. But technically, I've always said you get 1.8 for showdown taken away for a bogey. You get over 5 points for a birdie. So, you could deal with some of the guys like a Sam Ryder who, can make 6 birdies but also can rattle off 4 bogeys. You don't want bogeys, but if you have to deal with it for a cheap play, you can do it. With all that said, the number one that came up was Patrick Cantlay. You got Webb Simpson, funny enough. Against, again, those courses, remember that I showed you, all those really easy TPC courses. You got Scott Stallings, Davis, Henley, Woodland, Thigala, Will Z, Nick Hardy, who I believe made the weekend, but just did nothing. Chris Gotterup, when I say that, the 3M Open I was talking about. Adam Scott, Ryan Palmer, Harris English, Ricky Fowler, and Johnny Vegas are your guys that can go low at the courses I showed you. All right, and I already said it's a putting contest, so why not? I never would just base putting a team together off this, but it gives you some ideas. I mean, sometimes it's not a terrible thing if if the greens are very difficult, you could do something like this. But just so you know, this is looking at bent greens over the last 12 rounds. I want a more recent, because if you pull up like 24 rounds on bent greens, it could go back really far on some of these guys. Of course, we played some bent greens pretty recently, hence like the John Deere. I believe even the Travelers, off the top of my head, is bent. With that said, the number ones that are coming up: Cantlay, Bradley, Rogers, Svensson, Justin Lauer, Homa, McCarthy, which that makes sense. Austin Cook, Clark, which that was a little bit of a shocker. I've always known Wyndham, they have pretty good success on POA. But I think that's a good fit, right? Again, long driver of the ball, good putting. You put that together here, could have a nice little compliment. Hubbard again, who keeps coming up. And of course, like I said, I don't think we can play him. The Canadian Michael Glitch, 20 Finau, Kelly Craft, Cheston Hadley, and Callum Tarrant. So that gives you a little info on that. And then now onto my betting card. And yes, whenever we get into what I call, this isn't like, I don't know, it's not the alternate tournaments, but it's a weaker field tournaments. I get super excited. I tell you guys, I'm here for the long odds if possible. Now, this is a better field, better than the 3M Open, I think, by quite a bit. You got Will Z, you got Cam Young, you got Finau. This is against my model, but really all I'm showing you is who I bet, and we can talk briefly about. So Scott Stallings, right? He's been nipping at a win for a while. He does some things very well. He hits the ball pretty far. He's been very good with the irons over the past 24 rounds. Making some birdies. He can go pretty hot. He's good from that 125. So he's one of my favorite bets. I believe they don't have the odds on Fantasy National. I would have pulled those in instead of the DraftKings pricing. I think he's 55 to 1, is if I remember correctly. But I bet pretty heavy on him. He's my larger bet. You got Davis Riley, who, I think everybody was shocked on how he performed at the 3M Open, but I have no problems to go back to him. Again, he's got distance. He's good player all around. You see good with the irons, makes birdies. No issues there. Chris Gotterup also did not perform very well, but bangs the ball off the tee, does a lot of good things. Cameron Young, I think, between him and Will Z, we're like pot committed. I mean, especially on Will Z, even though I'm not excited about their odds, as I typically tell you guys, I don't play, bet guys that are usually under 20 to 1, but I'm kind of pot committed. I've got to bet these guys. So I'm betting Cam Young. I'm betting Will Z. So that's probably a little new for you guys to see. Russ Henley, I don't know. It's kind of my FOMO bet, right? You guys heard about the Sony incident, the Sony Open, where he lost a playoff. That stung, and I'm still waiting for him to get that win, and it's been a while. Been waiting on this. So that's kind of a FOMO bet. I think he's got the skill set. Again, for some odd reason, I like him putting on Bermuda better, but he can get hot with a putter, and he's one of the best iron players out there when he's on. You can see that represented right here, 6 over the past 6 tournaments he's played in. Patrick Rogers, I bet. I think he's like 100 to 1, 80 to 1, something like that. I think that's a good bet. Wyndham Clark, that was kind of a late ad. When I saw that bent green thing, I said, okay, let's go at it. Will Z, no shocker there. Taylor Pendrith, you know who that is. If you're kind of a little bit newer, Canadian player, crashes the ball off the tee. It's almost a little bit like a Wyndham Clark. Good putter and long off the tee. You can see irons maybe not the best, but has a skill set there. Kevin Kisner, I told you, now a total different, right? Guy is more of a plotter, but can get very hot with the putter. Being not the greatest this year. Best showing that off the top of my head was a second at the WGC Dell Match Play, and then he won the Wyndham last year, I think, if I remember that correctly. You got Luke List, of course, who won at the Farmers. Also a similar skill set to like a Wyndham Clark or Taylor Pendrith, just bombs it, but, really good with the irons. And of course, he gained on POA, but typically he's a terrible putter. Now, Troy Merritt, I put him in kind of the Nate Lashley camp, where good iron player, good putter, not long off the tee. And then Cameron Champ, you know, funny enough, he had to go birdie, birdie, birdie to make the cut at the 3M Open. You know, made it on a number. He wasn't a pick of mine. I don't even think I told you guys I was betting him, but I did throw a bet him at the very end. I got a little worried that he might go back to back. We've had a bit of that back to back wins this year already. But he did show life on Saturday, Sunday. He stated in his presser that he feels as healthy as he's been, and he had some personal things he was dealing with, right? And of course, the wrist injury that he went through in the fall of last year. Supposedly he's firing at 100%. Now, it did not look that way the opening couple rounds, but did have a pretty nice, for sure, had a good Sunday. I think he shot 4 or 5 under. So this is a course that makes total sense for me for him. So he maybe not done at the 3M Open. I've always said Cameron Champ typically gets his 1 win a year, and I'm just kind of covering that. Johnny Vegas, again, not that he's been doing a ton lately, but again, just he fits this kind of track. And then Harris English, funny enough, I'm pretty excited about that bet. I think he's almost 100% healthy. We've seen some real nice showings at times, but 100% healthy Harris English back to before his the hip injury got way too out of hand. This would be a perfect course for him. He does it all: distance, accuracy, good irons, and can be a great putter on bent. So that's why he's there. So that's my betting card. I know it's quite a few. Some of you guys say, wow, it's a big betting card. But, you know, it's kind of a mix, right? I got some guys with the low odds. I got some guys with high odds. I like it. And that's the card I'll probably be going into. You know, I'll do some round 1 stuff. But all right, that's it from me. Of course, I had to throw in, I was going to put this on actually the opening screen. But, of course, you know, KISS, Detroit Rock City from here. We got a bit of the local talent, right? You got Bob Seger, you got Eminem. I think Madonna technically you could tie to. But yeah, we got some rocks. I just threw that in. I just thought some funny pictures of the KISS guys. Do me a favor, as always, if you like how I do what I do, click that like button. If you know anybody else for some odd reason that doesn't know about me yet, share this with them. And for some odd reason, if you're watching me for the first time and you've not subscribed, or you've been watching me for a while and just don't have an account with YouTube, it'd mean a ton to me if you'd hit that subscribe button and become a subscriber. Typically, I do 3 shows a week, but we're kind of in a little bit of a lull this season. So I'm kind of doing 2 right now. I'm kind of doing this like preview betting show. And then Wednesday, I'll come out with the actual picks and give you the ownership projections. So my Before the Lock show. So I kind of combined picks and the Before the Lock show all into one. And as always, follow me on Twitter. Always keep an eye on everything that's going on. Let you guys know if I see anything you need to know. And with that said, I'm kind of excited. Like I said, I'll be at the tournament. I think Friday is what the plan is right now. Again, I don't know but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll put some stuff on Twitter for you guys or whatever. With that said, hey guys, I'll talk to you later. Look for my show Wednesday. I'll try to get it out earlier. I know last Wednesday for the 3M Open, I think I got it out like 6 or 7 o'clock, which that's a little tough. I know guys are trying to put their lineups together before then, but see if I can get it out a little earlier. All right, guys, have a great evening. Talk to you later.